some other news. A new status report filed last night. Special counsel Robert Mueller's office announced former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's cooperation is now complete. But in that same filing, Flynn's lawyers are asking for a 90-day delay in his sentencing. Flynn has been cooperating with prosecutors in Virginia in a separate case against two former business associates accused of illegal lobbying for Turkey. The special counsel's office did not take a position on Flynn's request for a sentencing delay. Mueller's team has recommended that Flynn receive little, if any, prison time. Tom, what's the significance here of the end of Flynn's cooperation with Mueller?
I think, this is something that he's kind of signaled in the past. He would not have been ready to move forward with sentencing. I mean, he was supposed to be sentenced before the holidays last year. Right. So he would not have wanted to move forward if we didn't already know, and he didn't already know that he was done with this cooperation. So I think Mueller's there. They're ready. They're ready to move on from this. They've got a report here to get out. They've got other things to kind of handle. So as far as Flynn's involvement in this, it's well and done. If it were not for the judge kind of raising this possibility that he wouldn't give Flynn credit for his testimony, or that there would be some sort of an issue with that, frankly, Flynn would already be sentenced. We'd already be moved on from this. So this is not the special counsel's doing. This is not Michael Flynn's doing. To some degree, this is really kind of what the judge raised in the original sentencing hearing. Michael Flynn, I think, smartly, on the advice of his attorney, says, you know what, I want to make sure this is buttoned up before we actually do make a sentencing date. In that 90 days from now, it's not a hard that we're actually going to get the sentencing then. They're just going to update at that point. So this could go on for another 5-6 months.
Meanwhile, Danny, former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort faces another round of sentencing today. This morning, a federal judge in Washington could add on 10 years in prison for two charges of conspiracy that Manafort pleaded guilty to last year. This comes less than a week after Manafort was sentenced to 47 months in prison in a different case. And Danny, one of the questions has been, will this time be added or will it be served concurrently with the previous sentence?
That's the big question. Prior to the sentencing last week, Judge Jackson in the District of Columbia was an afterthought because it was expected that Manafort would get a stratospheric sentence in Virginia. But now, with only 47 months, everybody turns to the District of Columbia, where the sentencing guidelines are so high that they exceed the statutory maximum of 10 years. So the advisory sentence is 10 years. The safe money bet is on a 10-year sentence today for Paul Manafort. But the big question for criminal defense attorneys in all of these cases is always consecutive or concurrent.
Right.
As Manafort's defense team, I would argue that this is all part of the same relevant conduct. So under the sentencing guidelines, it should be concurrent. But it will be interesting to see whether or not the judge exercises her authority and makes this a consecutive sentence so that Manafort can only serve his first sentence first, and then only when that's completed, he starts serving the second sentence.
What's your best guess? Concurrent or consecutive?
Best guess. Concurrent sentence, but the max of 10 years.
All right, Danny, Tom, thanks so much. A lot to go through today, Mika.
Yeah, there's still more, much more. The European Union becomes the latest to issue a directive banning all 737 MAX 8 planes after Sunday's Ethiopian Airlines crash. It joins a growing list of both countries and airlines to ban the jet, which includes China, Australia, and Aeromexico. India also granted the aircraft, and along with the UK, even banned the planes from traveling in its country's airspace. Not on that list, the United States. A statement last evening by acting FAA administrator, we have a lot of acting in this government, reads this. The FAA continues to review extensively all available data and aggregate safety performance from operators and pilots of the Boeing 737 MAX. Thus far, our review shows no systemic performance issues and provides no basis to order grounding the aircraft, nor have other civil aviation authorities provided data to us that would warrant action. In the course of our urgent review of data on the Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crash, if any issues affecting the continued airworthiness of the aircraft are identified, the FAA will take immediate and appropriate action. A Boeing spokesperson said the company's CEO spoke with President Trump yesterday to assure him about the safety of the 737 MAX 8 planes. Why does that not make me comfortable, Michael Steele? It doesn't make me comfortable. It actually makes me more uncomfortable. Saying, quote, he made it clear that he's absolutely confident in the safety of the airplanes. But Republican Senators Mitt Romney and Ted Cruz joined Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren, Dianne Feinstein, and Richard Blumenthal, in calling for the FAA to ban the 737 MAX 8 from U.S. airspace. Romney tweeted, out of an abundance of caution for the flying public, the FAA should ground the 737 MAX 8 until we investigate the causes of recent crashes and ensure the plane's airworthiness. This comes as reports surface that U.S. pilots had repeatedly reported safety concerns about the jets to federal authorities. The Dallas Morning News says it found 5 complaints in a public federal database about the 737 MAX's safety mechanism after takeoff, which was also cited in preliminary reports about an October Boeing 737 MAX 8 crash in Indonesia that killed 189 people. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reports that since the Indonesian crash, Boeing and the FAA have been working on extensive software fixes to the flight control system in these airplanes. The fix, scheduled to be rolled out by the end of April, would be a major shift from how Boeing originally designed the stall prevention feature in the planes. The software fix was expected to be rolled out in January, but U.S. officials said the recent government shutdown contributed to a delay, halting work on it for 5 weeks. So if you want to know about the impact of a government shutdown, you can see it right here, with important plans to fix a problem on airplanes that people fly in around the world has been delayed because of the government shutdown, because of the Trump shutdown. Heidi Prisbilla, what can Congress do to ground these jets if the president is just going to take the word of the CEO, like he took Vladimir Putin's word and apparently Kim Jong-un's word, that they're great guys? At this point, who would have confidence in the president's words?
The answer is nothing immediately. If you talk to lawmakers, there is increasing concern. You hear from Mitt Romney, Ted Cruz, who chairs a subcommittee with jurisdiction here, want to hold hearings on this. There's nothing they can do immediately because the FAA has jurisdiction. I will tell you that I talked with a top transport official in the Trump administration a couple days ago as this was all unfolding, and they at least initially believed that the problem was literally something lost in translation, with foreign pilots not understanding how to disable this auto technology, so that they weren't fighting the system, that it was a step that they were missing that was lost in translation. But now when you see that since then, U.S. pilots were also complaining, that makes you look at it in a slightly different prism. And I do think that this will be bipartisan as we get more and more information also coming in from United States pilots. It's going to be harder and harder for the Trump administration to say, no, this is just a problem with foreign pilots not understanding the training.
Right. I just hate the fact that we're not leading on things, but here we go again.
Well, yeah, I'm by no means an aviation expert, but this story is not just. This story is as much. It's obviously an aviation story, but it's also about how politics works.
Absolutely.
And we sort of laughed at the fact that he spoke with the Boeing CEO, but it's incredibly telling to me that he did, because it shows an industry capture, right? Did he speak with someone who's an advocate for aviation safety, for instance? I sincerely doubt it. Did he speak with the head of the Pilots Association? I'm not entirely sure he did. And yet, he got on the phone with the CEO of a major company, in part because that person is powerful in the business world and also in the political world. And we know that this president has an instinct to just sort of go with the advice of the last person he talked to.
Also, he's an interest in money.
Yeah, and so in this case, I think it's an incredibly telling thing that we are among the few countries that are not grounding these airlines, and that it happened after a talk with the Boeing CEO. I would hope that the president would have more data input and more conversations, but at this juncture, it doesn't look like that, and it looks like we're going to determine our regulatory policy based on the conversations that the president is having.
Would love to hear more from the White House on this decision. Right now, it doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good at all. Still ahead on Morning Joe, presidential candidate Senator Elizabeth Warren joins the conversation. Plus, the chairman of the House Intel Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff. Also, it could mean everything from trade chaos to food shortages. the UK is moving closer to crashing out of the EU unless British Parliament can find a fix for Brexit and fast. We'll have a live report from London. A lot to get to this morning, but
thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.